Simo, sorry, to be underdressed. I wanted to join Chatty's crew. I wanted to ask you about the tools. It seems like you've got one too many with the two ruckmen and the three bigs. Is that all? Are they all going to play? And
yeah, we won't divulge that yet, but we don't have to play all the tools. So we've got options, but yeah, I think now we consider Jakey a tall, where I reckon the team we've had previous years, we've considered Jake a high half forward who connects with our wingers. So his role's changed this year, obviously for the better. So I think it can work. I mean, if it's Darling, Allen and Waterman predominantly in your forward line, with a bit of Bailey, I think it can work. Or you got to have a look at it at the very least. So whether that's this week or not, we'll find out in a few hours. But yeah, it's definitely something we've got to look at some stage to see if it can work. It's worked in the past. So
it makes it hard for Ryan to keep his spot, doesn't it? And is he someone you want to get games into?
Yeah, well, that's the dilemma. Some of these younger players will look at different positions as well. So we think Ryan's got scope for other areas of the ground. So back, wing, forward. So these younger players, while they're developing their profile, their craft, I think we can expose them in other areas of the ground as well. So yeah, there's a bit to play with the side. It's pretty flexible at the moment due to the fact that there's some youth there that we can try in different positions. You're right. H, Harry, you're right.
Hutchinson the same? Is he flexible?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We don't know what he can bring just yet. He's got an athletic profile of a Jamie Cripps, but he's got the marking ability of Liam Ryan to a certain degree. And yeah, so the repeat speed, and he's good at ground level. So there's sort of stuff there that whether we try that at senior level or waffle, definitely something we need to look at in the back half of the year.
You're very tall at the other end too. If Harry Edwards plays, Gov, Tommy and Harry, can you play all of those in your back line?
We can. We did last week, but we won't this week. So Harry will go out of the side and Rotham will come in that space. But I think that can work as well. You know, the teams play tall at the bookends. If you look at Essendon's forward line, especially if they play two rucks, it'll be a pretty even matchup. So, yeah, I wouldn't get too concerned about the talls. I think our issues is going to be around that centre square and inside the middle. That's where the battle's won or lost for us at the moment, getting that field position, converting or getting out of our back half. That's secondary at the moment.
So how do you make that work with no Tim and no Harley?
Well, that's a challenge. Yeah, it really is, and we probably don't bat as deep as we'd like to in the future. And with Harley, it's obviously his first year, but I think we've all seen what he can do for us. And Tim's our best and fairest winner as a midfield. So, some of the guys have got to step up. And like I said before, there might be some opportunity for some others to see what they can do.
Position that you're playing Essendon so recently after playing them before a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Merritt sort of got hold of you a little bit that day. Dom's been doing some tagging jobs but obviously out. Do you look at running with someone with him, and if so, who?
Well, yeah, we got to look at that. I mean, Parrish had a really good day as well, so he's not playing, but they got some pretty dynamic midfielders. I think we started, and we have been starting quite poorly around the ball with stoppages, so big focus for us will be that. Whether we take on Merritt or not, that's something we won't divulge here. But he's a very good player. He's their captain, so we think he's pretty important to him.
Return, does that squeeze Andrew back out again, Gaffy?
Yeah, Gaffy will he'll play Waffle Eagles this week. So with Honey coming back in, and some other younger players to come into the side. So that's what's happening.
With Brockman, I don't even know what the process was, but was it a timing thing or just...
Not really. Like, he's working through some stuff, and I do appreciate the respect you gave the situation, because he made a mistake and he needs to, suffer the consequences for that when the time's right. But within the four walls, we need to take care of him and try and get him a career that gives the club as much as we give him. So that's just at the start of that, really. So getting him available, ticking some things off from a training point of view and a standards point of view and performance point of view, he's done that pretty well. And then there's some off-field stuff we're going to work on, and that'll take years.
He wasn't in great form before he was dropped.
No.
Could you put your finger on why? Was it just coming to a new club?
Oh, look, there's a lot going on. Yeah, so I think a combination of all things. But I'm really pleased with what he's done with his the football side of things, so that the metrics we needed him to hit before he became available, he's done that. So that's just work ethic, the GPS profile we need from him, and the standards around the gym and that sort of stuff. That's been something he's worked really hard on, and I think he was our trademark player for our Waffle Eagles 2 weeks ago, which sort of told us the players have accepted he's doing everything he can to be better, and we think he's in our best 22, so he'll get a chance this week.
If Bailey Williams goes out, would he be stiff? Would that be a...
Well, it's just how good is it we're having match committee discussions, those Oscar Allen comes back in the side and he's our captain, so there's a squeeze. So, hopefully we get Tim and Harley back next week and there'll be another conversation. So, we haven't had this healthier list for a long time. So, I think a lot of these guys have been, not gifted games, but they've had a lot of opportunity over the last 2 years, the guys who have been available. And Bailey's really grown. He's got better every year. So his new role, if he's a forward ruck, he needs to be a good forward ruck. So whether that's at AFL level or he works through at Waffle, we've got patience. So we'll work through that. And then Flynn, he's got to hold up his end too in the ruck. So, it's good to be having these discussions around form.
How do you think Waterman will go with Allen out beside him? And
I don't know. How do you reckon he'll go?
Hopefully good.
I look at. I think Jake has really thrived on the leadership side of things, and with Darling as a bit of a mentor for him, and Jack's really supplied some really good support and pressure around that forward line, and Jake's really stood up with his presence. So I would have thought Oscar complements that, but that might not be straight away. But it's great to know we've got a couple of young forwards there who, in the long run, they'll make it work.
And Darling probably goes towards being sometimes a premier forward, now to being probably the third in line in terms of opposition defences really zoning in. Do you think that's going to be a big help to him, that he can get off the leash a bit?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he sort of worked well with Josh Kennedy and co a few years ago. So, he's obviously on the back nine of his career, Darling, but he's still hitting the metrics we want him to around pressure and tackling, and he doesn't lose many contests. I think that's when he's at his best. Probably hasn't taken the clunks he used to take, but I don't think he's far off of that. So, I'm sure Oscar will help that as well. So, like I said, it might not be straight away, but for our future, we can see some positive signs.
Do you leave Jake where he is because he's playing well and try and fit Oscar around him, or do you put Oscar where you think he's going to end up and Jake's role has to change?
A bit of both. I think Oscar wants to complement our side and help us win. So I don't think it's about Jake kicking goals. So, and he's really clear on that, and so are we. And he's had a good season on the scoreboard, but I think when he was at his best, and it was a few weeks ago, he sort of got that concussion. I think it was concussion. What he does off the ball and his pressure and his work rate, that's the stuff that Jake was doing really well for us, and he's continued to do that for most of the year. So I'm not worried about him winning the Coleman. Maybe, I hope he's not either. I'm sure it's in the back of his mind. But, it's about the collective. And Oscar's really clear on that, so is Jake and Jack.
How do you go about this weekend? You've been away for a while. Last away game obviously didn't go your way in Adelaide. How do you address the players with that at the moment?
It's a difficult one, the mindset of a travelling side that hasn't won on the road or hasn't performed anywhere near their best. We're not alone on that, but I've sort of gone through that in my journey here as well about what it means to travel, and we've had some good years and some bad years, and I think our team's starting to get to the point now we should be competitive everywhere we play. So that's our first goal, and probably just haven't seen that on our travel games apart from Sydney. So the start's really important, but it's really a mindset thing, and until you start winning, you can't get that form. It's difficult to put your finger on, let's do this, or let's do that, or let's change this, because you end up chasing your tail. So big responsibility on our leaders is probably where it starts.
Did it feel a bit like when you said, you want to make Optus a fortress and that's the moment focus, that the players are a little bit sort of softened off on their away games there? Did it feel like...
No, I think what we've really appreciated this year is the crowd, and we've got to hold up our end, but that it feels different at home. It feels like it used to. So the crowd's turned up, and I think for the large part we have as well on our home games and looking at our stats at our mid-season sort of review, some of our numbers on our home games are exceptional. Top 4 in some areas where we were 18th by a mile. Away form, it still looks pretty dire. So, the next step for us is to be more consistent. And I think the first step is to, your home games are really important, but we don't weight it anymore. It's probably a bit easier for a younger side. So, got some real good experienced players that have travelled well before, and our expectations are we get better away, and hopefully that starts this week.
Do you want to comment on Mark Evans saying, okay, if the grand final's at the MCG for the next 100 years, that the first week of the finals should be away from Melbourne? That's the latest push from...
At Optus? I don't know the answer. I mean, there's a lot of people with opinions at the moment, and I don't know, everyone's got a weighted opinion towards their own benefit. So, but I think we all agree we can get better at the equalisation. So whatever that looks like, as long as they take everyone into consideration. But someone's going to be unhappy.
Liam previously has told me about the away form that, it's getting used to hotels for the young kids and being away from home and all that sort of stuff that comes around the game.
Yeah.
You're in Melbourne for the next 3 away trips. Does that maybe help a little bit, like a bit more familiarisation?
You just can't use that as an excuse. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If you start talking about, we've got to get rid of the desserts because there's too much apple crumble or something like that we've done all that. And I think in 17, we were the flat track bullies. We're winning heavily at home, lose away. And then in 18, I think we won against the Bulldogs round 2, and then it just went away. So I think this will all change if we start winning. So what gets us over the line is probably more about attitude than the hotel.
Liam and Ryan gave you guys some really good buzz in that final quarter against the Kangaroos. Do you look to use him more in the centre circle?
Yeah, how long can he last on ball is probably the question we'd ask ourselves. But yeah, the game's... the repeat speed's really important, and that top end speed, I think, is something we're lacking a little bit on our side across the board. So with Brockman coming in, Hunt coming in, Rotham coming in, that sort of changes the dynamic a little bit. So yeah, we need to get a bit more speed in our legs around the ball as well. So he might be part of that, but he's a pretty good forward.
And you mentioned a few weeks ago that Hunt's top end speed dropped from, I think, 35 to 33 or something. Is it back up to?
Yeah, no, it's back. So he's good to go. I don't think it's fully going to go away this year, but he's well and truly better than he was.
So if Bailey Williams doesn't play, who is your backup ruckman? Who's the... Is it Jack or is it...
Could be anyone, yeah. Darling's been craving to play ruck, so he might be second ruck.
Oscar first game would be...
Yeah, probably not Oscar. But teams do it. Carlton did it 2 weeks ago. They just had a midfielder take the ruck. So it's more about your ruckman, your main ruckman, how long can they play in the ruck? If it's 25 minutes and you pinch it for 5, it's well and truly doable. And Flinny's not far off that.